All right, welcome back. For those on the East Coast, we probably just scarfed down a little bit of food. For those on the West Coast, let's see, was it 10:50? I don't know. You guys having a little snack maybe? We are going to get started welcoming in Mackenzie and Melissa from Laconia. I've had the pleasure of chatting with Mackenzie quite a few times about the work that's going on there. And oh wow, look at you guys! You guys are together. Ah, look at that. Um, and the work that she talks about that's going on there has been super interesting to me. And not only thinking about how do we work with the students, but also how do we address some of the teachers and staff and administrators who are also struggling with the pandemic, with trying to balance things, with trying to connect with students that are sometimes available, sometimes not. And I thought it would be a really great opportunity to hear from the work that they're doing. But first, I want to introduce you to what I call break-ins and breakouts. So I'm not a terribly great fan of like the breakouts at the end of the sessions. So I want to try to create an interactive atmosphere as we jump into each session. So with that, I've asked a couple of sites to volunteer to share a little bit about what they're doing in this arena, and to kind of to kickstart the conversation. And so first, we're gonna bring in Dora from El Rancho. They volunteered to begin the break-in session. But also, I know folks are just getting back, but as you get back, please turn on your monitor, your video, so we can see you all, and put it in gallery for now, because this is going to be the interactive piece. So unfortunately, I can't replicate us all being in the same location and being able to just wave our hand and just talk, but we're going to try to do that as best we can. So during the first about 5 to 10 minutes of each session, we're going to do a little bit of a break-in. And we're going to start with Dora in El Rancho. So Dora, can you kind of explain a little bit about the work that you guys are doing in the mental health area? And if folks want to also share a little bit about what they're doing or want to raise their hand, looks like there's a raise your hand feature on Zoom, or just let us know that you want to interject. So probably from about now until about 2 o'clock, maybe a little bit after 2 o'clock, we want this to be as interactive as possible. Go ahead, Dora.
Good morning, everyone. Again, yes, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share some of our work. I'm going to ask our staff to do that and share directly what they're doing, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a background in terms of what our Project Safety Net is here and when we first applied. So some of the data that I'm going to give you is the reason why we knew we needed additional support services. We've been very fortunate that, gosh, since I've started in this position back in 2009 with Safe Schools, Healthy Students, we've had an opportunity for funding and to build on some of the things that either were non-existent or that we knew that we needed in terms of helping our students. So when we first applied for this grant, we had 85 cases of child abuse reported that year. 13% of our student population had one or both parents incarcerated. We had a very high crime rate within the city, especially as it compared to surrounding cities in the county. Our juvenile arrest rate increased 40% that year. And then we also had an increasing number of suspensions and expulsions. And being that person that processes suspensions and expulsions, I knew that we needed different actions. What we were doing was not changing the behavior of the students, was not changing the situation for our students, and even for the classroom teachers. All it was doing was putting kids out of school not having access to their academics or to support services. All they were doing was staying at home and probably getting into more trouble. So those are the reasons why we applied for the grant. And now I have Jeff and Sonia, who are mental health liaisons, that will talk to you a little bit about what we've done thus far and what we're doing during distance learning for mental health. And then Sandra will follow with SEL.
Yeah, so good morning and good evening to everybody. So, a couple things that we did. We had to move everything to online over this last year. We've been really busy getting everything set up. We were successful though in being able to, we have referrals. So we got information out on what to look for students who would benefit from mental health services. We got, so referrals for students, staff, and parents on our websites, so they can click on there and they can refer any student. We really built up our websites to share our information, community resources, 24-hour hotlines, things like that. We wanted to get that information out to everybody. But we were aware that some of our students may not reach out. So we developed a screener where so it was a Google form that we had all of our teachers administer, where we asked the students just a series of questions just to kind of identify those who needed additional support. Questions like, how are you feeling, right? Are you coping well during this time? Are you struggling but coping well enough? Are you struggling, you need additional mental health support, and do you need immediate support? So based off of that, we were able to identify quite a few students to follow up and then link them. We have an intern program, so we have partners with local universities where we train MSW interns and MFT trainees and school counseling interns. So we link the students that needed additional mental health services either to our interns or to our mental health staff to follow up and get them connected. We also we have a strong network of community partners, in that we would link them to. So if they have Medi-Cal or if they have some type of insurance, we're going to link them to those services. And then if they don't have those, then we would provide the services either through our interns or through our staff. So all those procedures, continued, and the screener helped us to identify those. We also asked questions around whether they've have any housing issues or food issues, so they could either just click it rather than maybe reaching out to us. They could just click a box and then we could follow up with them. Or if they have ever had a citation, or whether they are on probation, because sometimes we're having a hard time identifying some of those students with our partnerships. We're able to identify them that way, and then follow up and link them to the appropriate services. So that was a really helpful, I think, a helpful strategy that I think will continue moving forward, as well. So, Sonia, do you want to share some additional parts?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight too, and part of that survey and aligning with sort of, we're talking about students with exposure to violence. That was a creative way that we found for students to also identify whether or not they were feeling unsafe at home. And so we acknowledged that the referrals to DCFS significantly decreased since students were learning remotely from home, and not necessarily that there are less instances of child abuse. And so we really were tasked with trying to find a way to ask students about how they're feeling and whether or not they are feeling safe. And so we, after students that was one of our highest priority responses. So we had the priorities in terms of same day, maybe within 24 hours, and then within a few days of response. Most of the students were responded to within a day or two. And so we used our team for that, and interns and counselors included. And so aside from that too, we're also looking to support the teachers. So Jeff mentioned teachers were our primary, we've really relied a lot on our teachers during this time, being that they have eyes on students, or at least can get a sense of their engagement on a daily basis. And so we've provided supports to our teachers. We've partnered with agencies that have provided them since the beginning of the school year, weekly mindfulness experiences, virtually done. And so teachers have opted to drop into those sorts of resources, help them to get some support for themselves, just so they can better support our students and be more aware, right? As we're training them of things to look out for, being that we don't have the students in person, but we still have information points that we can gather to kind of sense if there's a student that, or a family who's been exposed to any sort of violence, and that we could intervene with. And so that's also something that we ask about on our electronic referral systems, right? Asking teachers to, share out, and we keep it open to you, just because we know that there could be all different sorts of exposures. And so just for, we've gotten teachers that are concerned with maybe things that they're seeing in the background, maybe interactions that they're observing, maybe with family or caregivers in the home. And so those are all things that we've been able to really intervene with. And I think it is something to say that, students are learning from home, but we really are literally getting a view of home. And so we're really trying our best as a staff to be supportive and really help to identify students and give them ways to seek out support, especially those students that are going to be more internalizers or less outspoken to ask or request for support themselves. So yeah, to date, we've supported about 900 students so far this school year. Our mental health department has really worked to, traditionally, we see between 12 and 1,400 of our about 8,000 students in a school year. And so we feel like that's really helped us to, we see a lower number this year at about 900 so far, right? We anticipate to close at about 1,000, but relatively in similar numbers, right? We were really concerned of like losing complete contact with students. And so that has been something we've really helped as a team to work and coordinate to maintain the identification and the support of students in our district. So I'll turn it to Sandra if you want to share anything else.
Thanks, Sonia. So just to add to what Jeff indicated and alluded to earlier, we really focused on developing our district website as well and provide additional resources and supports for our staff and our parents. So we really focused on that at the beginning of the year, looking at behavioral resources for family, social emotional resources for family, mental health, as well as this has been a big hit in our district, the virtual calming room. And that was developed for both students, staff, parents, and that was part of our district website as well. And, we've gotten a lot of feedback from teachers who are utilizing that in the classroom now as students may be having some difficulties, right? And they're referring to that, or even using that as a opening activity, right? Like a warm-up activity, and really beginning those conversations about feelings and how we cope with that. And that I think is going to be very crucial as students return to that brick and mortar, especially if we can't have a calming room in the classroom that they can refer back to that virtual calming room. And again, a lot of just professional development that we've done for staff. Our school psychologists, and in partnership with our school psychologists and mental health counselors, we've developed videos for our teachers, and they're short 20-minute videos on a variety of topics, trauma-informed practices, right? Strategies for engaging parents, which has been something that our teachers are struggling with. Strategies for de-stressing and decreasing anxiety, suicide awareness for staff. So again, we have all of these videos that staff can look at their leisure, and we highlight one at the beginning of every month, and we send that out to our administrators, and they can have those discussions at their weekly meetings in case any staff members have any questions. Anything else that I missed, guys?
Yeah, so we're also continuing our Promise program, which is after school program for middle school youth. We used to be at-risk youth, but we call them at Promise, and so they're a small group. Our biggest challenge was figuring out how to engage these students. So we really developed an online strategies just to have a lot of fun, right? So we play a lot of games with them online, we do scavenger hunts, and we do we did like one time we did a virtual tour of Disneyland, kind of went through some things together just to kind of get them engaged and connect with each other. So some of them go to several of the middle schools, so it's been kind of interesting, bringing them together online. Whereas normally we could only do it at one site at a time, we were able to bring actually multiple schools together online and pull our resources that way, which has been really helpful. But yeah, really, having fun, engaging the students, and then bringing in those life skills curriculum. We have a collaboration between our mental health department and our school police who work together, and they use different sort of evidence-based, curriculums like the gang, which is so gang resistant education and training, and then aspects of Hope and Noble, which is another evidence-based program. So kind of with an indigenous sort of healing circle component. So we pull from different pieces to really engage those students. And we've had a lot of success with it. We use gift cards, to incentivize attendance. And we've had really, I think, great success with that program as well. So it's like a once a week after school program. We've been doing it on Fridays because that's sort of the shorter day when they're not all day in synchronous learning. So
this is really great information. Thank you guys so much. And I feel like there's so much more to share. I'm going to put a pin in your guys' conversation because we're going to move to Laconia because they have a ton of useful information as well. And as folks are thinking about questions or you have a comment, feel free to, like I said, put it in the chat, use idea boards, and we'll make sure that we follow up either during the session or after the session on Basecamp.